I have never lost a home, and I can only imagine how a fire is to survive with all your things on the other side. But for months at a time I lost my mind, and for years my self-control and my self-confidence were shattered so violently I wasn't sure I would ever be myself again. Maybe mental state comes and goes, as does strength and earthly possessions. Sometimes it was just the porch that saw me through to sanity, connecting me to birds and the nature around me. Birds dipping into old unused chimneys, summer flocks, or maybe bats. As the flock is with womankind. These homes on my street have historically housed African American men, women, and children. In the sooty southern town, we all wait for the same rain. Birds, robins, sparrows, and swallows all rejoice when it comes. There was a time when fruit trees were abundant on the street and chickens roamed free. My family moved to McDowell Street 30 years ago. The flocks, avian and human, stay the same, but fewer and fewer of the people are the exact same as when we started. Once I found the wing of a mourning dove in my backyard. Nights can be cold for person and creature. Everyone perishes once and comes once to life. But I never will know where the titmice rest at night, or how they survive the freeze. Once I learned about the patterns of human psychology and the fractal makeup of the wings, the same makeup of wings, the same mathematical structure as flowers and galaxies. Homes and heads and herons all work by similar rhymes and reason, I think. Sometimes humans laugh at feathered animals as dumb or crazy, but we are not in any tighter hold of our existence. We could all die tomorrow, or we could all just go crazy. Even the mites on the down have a certain natural might. In my time on this earth, I have seen many grim things. Just last week, when I wrote this, a neighbor froze in his home just as once birds fell loose from heavens in ice storm. As solid as I am today, my mind was once lost, unhinged by mental illness. I watched the world from inside the hospital window, wishing to piece my scattered thoughts back together. One entire October I spent in a ward, depressed and unable to fund outpatient care to get adjusted on my medicines. All I wanted that month was to feel sunlight and the crunch of leaves underfoot, with black vultures circling. It's lonely in the mental ward at 17. At 20 it seemed impossible to scramble out. Once I met a hummingbird in the snow that had come so unexpectedly in early autumn. My hopes were never lost completely, but I did not know how to find my competence again. I had to go on medicines that made me drool and stare in space. Eventually, the medicines adjusted with me, and I adjusted to my medicines. My dignity was present but confused. I did not want to talk about myself as mentally ill. I did not realize the other people around in the ward had hard stories like my own. My mind felt blank and worn out for weeks and months. I started making a whirlwind of bad decisions. I accrued credit card debt and I would end up declaring bankruptcy. I changed my mind too much about everything. I started college again at expensive schools, and I had to withdraw because I had trouble making friends, because I was anxious about failure, because I could not move forward one step at a time. I withdrew from college more than anyone I've ever known. Other times I just quit. Of course, in order to quit multiple times, I tried more than others. Sometimes I still muttered to myself when I could, if no one was around. The Cardinals and Blue Jays listened. The Crows did too, always responding more than I ever spoke. I made other decisions unrelated to college that were impulsive and risky. I took unplanned trips. There were consequences. I traveled to Maine and was hurt by a stranger in an isolated bus terminal. I had trouble finding friends I could trust. I thought, paradoxically, I had more support than most, so I endured a self-made loneliness far too long. It took so much work to get to where I am now. Even just 5 years ago, I cried and suffered in crisis every night. My medicines needed readjusting. I am a pacifist, but once one of the worst recent results of mental illness was that I physically hurt a woman's hand in anger once. I also spent a night in jail for accidental property damage when I was entirely lost mentally with insanity early in my illness. How can a person call themselves a pacifist if they hurt someone else as I did? Sometimes flocks take formation, and it's the most amazing sight. All of the individuals somehow keep perfect, respectable distance, and the whole group moves simultaneously, so in sync. I go to a tree in fall every year, and I muse over the dropping leaves, swept up in a gust, becoming birds. Annually, I am in awe of the beauty and mystery. Every day I see something magical outside. A woman, though, some person is still trapped on the other side of the hospital glass, unable to watch the swallows and the bats sweep into old chimneys. It's actually swifts. Unable to crunch leaves under their feet. Someone else is experiencing a suffering of mental illness like I did. I see these insane people in my mind's eyes. Maybe it's temporary. I think everyone could be helped with the right circumstances like me. Support of caring friends and family, always having a home, legal help in dire straits, and perseverance from inside. Secondly, I think we all would have hope for perseverance if we were given the necessary treatment and complied with those that have our best interest in mind. Currently, so many with mental illness go directly to jail, and no one pays their bail or defends them. Currently, not enough people can afford medicines or even fund studies to help them to become sane. I know I am one of the lucky ones with this illness. From my front porch, I tell the birds my story. Most often lately, with long stares of meaningful connection. Sometimes I whistle to the towhee that wrestles its beak deep in the plants and the grapevine searching for grubs. I believe in kinship of living beings. Human, definitely, but those also in flight. I have known the same heron for years, where I visit her creek, each week in spring, summer, fall, and winter. Once I cried out because she had been absent or hidden for so long. Then, like a wish granted, I saw her lanky daughter waiting in the pool near the white waterfalls. Soon after, I saw my old bird friend, the mother, and I noted the difference between her and the juvenile. Her wings spanned so much broader. Revisiting the shore when I rarely am able, I have watched the plovers and sanderlings who run in the out of the tide. Their numbers seem to me to retreat into some distant place of non-being. I have worried about their thinning numbers. As the pelicans also seem constant and still fed by fish in good enough waters, I think about them and the threatening by vulnerable human populations. Toxins and rising tides rip apart the world in every region. There is no perfect safe place from the elements, only an ability to choose not to wreck and ravage our planet. It takes some of us longer to live lives to feel sorrow. It takes some of us longer in our lives to feel sorrow. But we all fall down in our own way. We can lie crying or stand again a stronger person, reaching back with an open hand to pull up the next individual to their feet. I fell, and it felt like my thoughts would never be clear again. I fumbled in sorrow and thought I could never be happy again. I dropped and hit the lowest place I ever could imagine, but it was not the bottom, just a dip I would look back at with sentiment. But now I have climbed back up the hill and seen the top of the mountain, and I know where the scarlet tanager lives in the canopy, and I live on a street at the base of the Holston Mountain. Sometimes I walk up so climactically thrilling. I fall sometimes, but I know the answer with resilience is to get back up and quickly as you possibly can, and yet remain sure and steady on your feet and never criticize yourself for being too slow. I know I will never fall as low again as the pits of where I have been. I know I will never be in a mental ward again, and I know everything of the mind is possible, meaning loss of control may happen to anyone at any time. So maybe I am wrong about the ward and my going there again, but I just as likely will that anyone is just as likely to be hospitalized for their mental state as me to return to that pit of suffering. And I know that the best place to exit and the way out, I never would waste time climbing that steep hill again. I tell you this because anyone can fall and hurt and suffer. You can be struck ill at any moment in the worst, most unexpected way. You need to know this first to create a living hope for you to tap into if you fall. Next, you need to know that this so you can celebrate what you have and where you are now. Last, if you already are suffering, you need to know a kinship with someone who has been there, has a peaceful happiness and mental wellness, who has someone out there who has a peaceful happiness and mental wellness. If you know you have mental illness, you need to know hope. There is hope for you, for all of us, for the endangered birds and every fragile wing. When you look at the birds, I want you to know that there is hope for all of the earth. That was an essay that I wrote about maybe like 4 years ago. And it's called My Hojoki. That's what I called it back then. I'm trying to think of what I'll call this video because I wrote it back then, but it's kind of like a magnum opus of sorts. It's an important essay because it well, you listened to it already, but it's kind of like the story of my life, written in the style of the Hojoki. So, like, that's that old Japanese poem that I love so much, and I love that it talks about impermanence. And so I'm kind of tying in my mental illness story with impermanence in this essay. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good day. Okay, bye.